Human accepts alien slave as payment, then discovers she's a wealthy princess. Zyphora was the sort of place where a person could lose everything in one bad deal, or, if clever enough, find a fortune where no one else dared to look. Ryland's luck had been poor lately. His last cargo mission ended with a smoldering ship engine and half his goods destroyed in a pirate raid. Now, the creditors were closing in, and his bank account was a sad, blinking zero. Standing in the middle of the cluttered trading post, Ryland could feel the weight of failure pressing on him like gravity on a dying star. "Captain Voss," a voice called out. Ryland turned to see a short, wiry alien in patched clothes. His skin was mottled green, his eyes large and orange. He carried a small, wheeled crate strapped to his back. "I heard you might be looking for a payment solution," the alien said, bowing slightly. "I have an alternative for your debts." Ryland raised an eyebrow, a habit he had whenever someone whispered the word alternative in frontier trade. Usually it meant danger, trouble, or both. "What kind of alternative?" he asked cautiously. The alien hesitated, then opened the crate. Inside was a young female alien. She sat upright, hands folded neatly on her knees. Her skin was pale with a soft shimmer, almost metallic, and her hair fell like silver waves down her back. Her eyes, large and violet, scanned Ryland calmly. She did not plead or beg. She simply watched. "She's a slave," the trader said softly. "To settle your debt, you can keep her or sell her elsewhere." Ryland blinked. "A slave? Yes. Legal on some systems, though not on yours, but my client was desperate and they needed to pay me quickly." "You would only be taking her temporarily." Ryland's mind raced. Selling a slave was risky. Many human worlds had outlawed the practice, but keeping her as leverage or using her skills could be useful. Still, something about her made him uneasy. She wasn't frightened. She wasn't broken. She had a quiet strength that made him suspect she was not ordinary. "I don't usually deal in people," he said finally, "but desperate times." The alien trader smiled. "I thought you might see it that way. She is smart, quick, and resourceful." Ryland shook his head. "I'll take her, but I make no promises, and I'm responsible for her safety." "Got it." The trader nodded and vanished into the bustling crowd. Ryland turned to the girl. "Name?" he asked. "Lyra," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Lyra," Ryland repeated. "Well, Lyra, welcome aboard the Starward." The ship was small and battered. Its engines groaned like old metal in pain, but it was Ryland's home and only hope. He assigned Lyra a small cabin and spent the rest of the day trying to get the ship's systems working again. He noticed Lyra watching him work, not just watching, studying. "Ever fixed a hyperdrive before?" he asked casually. "I have knowledge of engineering," she replied. "I can assist if you wish." Ryland paused. Humans didn't usually accept help from aliens in such a straightforward manner, especially slaves. But he could use every hand. "Fine," he said, handing her a toolkit. Within hours, Lyra was helping him. Her hands were precise, movements careful but confident. She pointed out misalignments in the engine, subtle energy leaks he had missed. Ryland watched her, impressed despite himself. She was good, better than most engineers he had worked with. As the ship hummed back to life, Ryland began to relax. Maybe, he thought, taking her aboard wasn't the worst idea he'd ever had. That evening, as the twin suns of Zyphora dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in orange and violet, Ryland and Lyra sat in the small mess hall. He offered her some food, a simple protein ration, but she ate only a little. "Are you afraid?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head. "I am cautious. I do not fear you personally. I am careful of my situation." Ryland frowned. "And that situation is?" She remained silent. Only her eyes hinted at secrets she would not yet share. Days passed. Lyra's intelligence and quiet competence impressed Ryland and the ship's small crew. She repaired broken circuits, recalibrated navigation systems, and even helped negotiate a trade deal with a suspicious Zyphoran merchant. Rylan noticed how she handled the negotiations, polite but firm, careful yet clever. One day, while inspecting a shipment of alien spices, the starward sensors picked up unusual activity in nearby space, a small fleet of pirate ships. "Pirates," Rylan muttered. "Not now," Lyra studied the sensor readouts quickly. "Captain, they are approaching from Vector 7 Alpha. Their weapons are unshielded, but they outnumber us 3-1. We must act cautiously." Rylan raised an eyebrow. "You've got a plan," Lyra nodded. "Yes, use their overconfidence. Their larger fleet is slow. If we draw them near the asteroid belt, we can use gravity and debris to our advantage." Rylan felt a surge of admiration and disbelief. "All right, Lyra, lead the way." The humans and the alien princess, though he didn't know it yet, worked together. They navigated the starward through the jagged asteroid belt, dodging rocks and weaving unpredictably. The pirates' superior numbers counted for little against the clever, agile maneuvers of a small ship guided by brains over brawn. One of the pirate ships clipped an asteroid and spun out of control. Another crashed into debris. By the time the skirmish ended, the pirates were retreating, humiliated and defeated. Rylan exhaled, amazed. You just saved us. How did you know we'd survive that?" Lyra's eyes met his. "I have studied similar situations. Observation is key, strategy is key, and humans often underestimate what strategy and courage can accomplish." Rylan smiled wryly. "Guess that makes us a good team, huh?" For the first time since taking her aboard, he allowed himself to relax around Lyra, but questions lingered. Who was she? Why did she seem so different? There was something regal in her posture, something commanding even without words. A week later, while docking at a small trade station for supplies, a shimmering holographic projection appeared on Lyra's cabin terminal. The light pulsed, sending a chill through the room. Lyra froze. Her violet eyes widened, not with fear of Rylan, but with awe. "It's from my home," she whispered. Rylan stepped closer. "Your home, what is it?" She swallowed hard. "I cannot say here, they must not know I am here. My family, I am not as I seem." Rylan's heart skipped a beat. "You mean you're not a slave?" Lyra shook her head. "No. I was captured, sold. To protect myself, I allowed them to believe I am powerless, but I am someone important, someone they must not know is alive." Rylan leaned against the wall, stunned. "So, you've been pretending this whole time?" "Yes, to survive," she said simply. Rylan rubbed his face. "And here I was, thinking I just took a risk accepting a slave as payment. Turns out I've been harboring a princess." Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "It seems so, but you treated me with fairness, not as property. That is unusual." Rylan chuckled, a mix of pride and exasperation. "Humans have their moments. Guess I just hope I don't get us both killed now." The night stretched on. The twin suns had set, leaving the sky a deep violet streaked with stars. Rylan watched Lyra, thinking about the strange twist of fate that brought a royal alien into his small, struggling ship. He couldn't know what dangers her revelation would bring, but one thing was certain. Life aboard the Starward had just become far more complicated and far more interesting. A week later, the first real threat arrived. A small, sleek ship appeared on the edge of Zyphera's orbit. Its markings were unfamiliar, alien, and deadly. Rylan grabbed the controls, Lyra at his side. "Well," he said, "I guess we're about to find out just how dangerous a princess can be." Lyra placed her hand on the navigation panel. "And how clever a human can be," she said. The two shared a glance that said more than words ever could. Between them, human cunning and alien grace formed an unlikely partnership. The battle ahead would test both, and neither could predict who would survive. But for now, Rylan thought, staring out at the approaching ship, there was excitement in the unknown and hope. In the vast galaxy, sometimes the smallest choices led to the largest adventures. Accepting a slave as payment had been one of those choices. And the adventure was just beginning. The sleek ship lingered on the edge of Zyphora's orbit like a predator circling prey. Its dark hull reflected the light of the twin suns, and Rylan Voss felt his chest tighten. He had faced pirates before, but this ship was different. The markings were alien, unfamiliar, and precise. This was no ordinary pirate raid. Lyra stood beside him, calm as ever, her violet eyes fixed on the approaching vessel. Her hand hovered over the ship's controls, not touching, merely guiding with her presence. "They are not pirates," she said. "They are bounty hunters, highly trained, and they know of me." Rylan froze. "Of you," Lyra nodded. "If they catch me, they will return me to my enemies, or worse. My life, my people, everything depends on us staying alive." Rylan felt a surge of adrenaline. "Okay, so tell me the plan." Lyra's lips curved slightly. "The plan is simple, but dangerous. We must escape Zyphora orbit and head for the asteroid belt near Sector 9. The hunters expect us to run toward open space." "That is why we will run the opposite way." Rylan frowned. "Opposite way into a dangerous asteroid field." "Exactly. Their technology is advanced, but their ships are large and slow in narrow spaces. We will use the terrain, and your instincts." Rylan smirked. "Ah, so I'm the wild card. Got it." The Starward lifted off with a low hum, its engines trembling as Rylan pushed them beyond safe limits. Lyra guided him through calculations faster than Rylan could comprehend. The bounty hunters followed, weapons scanning and ready. "Rylan, starboard 20, Lyra shouted, pointing. Rylan swerved. The asteroid field loomed ahead, jagged rocks floating like teeth. The pursuing ships hesitated for a fraction of a second, and that fraction was enough. One hunter ship clipped an asteroid and spun out of control. Another tried to follow but was slowed by the tight path. "Not bad for a human," Lyra said quietly, her eyes glinting with approval. "Not bad for a princess," Rylan shot back, grinning. Lyra ignored him. Her focus remained sharp, and Rylan realized that she had been training him all along, teaching him how to think like someone who had to survive by wits and courage. By the time they cleared the asteroid field, the hunters were battered and retreating. Rylan leaned back in his chair, sweaty but exhilarated. "You know," he said, "I might actually start to like you." Lyra gave a faint smile. "I do not require your affection, but I appreciate your cooperation." After the chase, the ship slowed near a hidden space station built into a hollow asteroid. It was small, secret, and mostly abandoned, perfect for planning their next move. Once inside, Lyra revealed more of her story. "My name is Lyra of the Xanthurian Empire," she began, sitting with her hands folded neatly. "I am a princess. My family rules a wealthy and powerful civilization, but political rivals seek to overthrow my people, and my enemies captured me. I allowed myself to be sold to survive." Rylan whistled softly. "A princess, and you let me think you were a slave. You're braver than I imagined." Lyra shook her head. "It was necessary. Trust is dangerous. Appear weak and no one hunts you for power. Appear strong and they strike immediately. I had to survive until I could find an ally I could trust." Rylan rubbed his chin. "So that ally is me." "You have treated me fairly," she said simply. "I can see your character. You have courage, intelligence, and integrity. These traits are unusual among humans. I believe I can trust you." Rylan leaned back, surprised and humbled. "Unusual? Thanks, I think." Lyra's eyes softened slightly. "It is a compliment. Among many species, humans are underestimated. They rely on courage and cleverness rather than pure technology or brute strength. That makes you valuable." Rylan smiled. "Well, princess, if that's the case, I guess I'm officially your sidekick now." Lyra chuckled softly, the first time he had heard her laugh. It was musical and light, almost human. The next days were tense. Lyra contacted her empire through secure channels, but the communication was risky. Every transmission could be intercepted. Rylan assisted by improvising human-style encryption, using patterns from Zyphoran trade codes to mask the signal. I never thought humans would be this useful in interstellar politics, Lyra admitted one night, reviewing a map of the galaxy with him. And I never thought I'd be helping a princess reclaim her throne, Ryland said. But here we are. Funny how life works, huh? Their bond grew stronger. Lyra taught him Xanthurian etiquette, alien trade rules, and strategy. Rylan, in turn, showed her the art of improvisation, how to escape tight situations, bluff enemies, and use human unpredictability to their advantage. One evening, while they trained in the asteroid hangar, alarms suddenly blared. "Rylan!" Lyra shouted. "Incoming fleet!" They must have traced my communication. Rylan ran to the controls. On the sensors, a small armada approached, weapons glowing ominously. These ships were larger, faster, and clearly designed for war. This was no mere bounty hunter squad. This was an assassination fleet sent by Lyra's political rivals. Ryland's heart raced. "We need a plan, fast." Lyra studied the fleet. "Their formation is tight. They rely on coordination and numbers, but they are predictable. I will guide you." "Trust me?" Ryland nodded. "You've got it. Lead the way, princess." The battle began. Ryland maneuvered the starward with all his skill, dodging blasts and weaving through asteroids. Lyra calculated trajectories, predicting enemy movements and directing him with precise instructions. "Now, starboard 50, hard burn," Lyra shouted. Ryland pushed the engines beyond safe limits. The ship shuddered, groaning under stress, but it responded. One of the enemy ships collided with an asteroid. Another overshot a turn and had to reverse sharply, giving the starward a chance to escape. "This is insane," Ryland muttered, sweating, hands flying over controls. "It is survival," Lyra said calmly. "And survival requires courage and strategy, not just strength." By the end of the skirmish, the enemy fleet had retreated, damaged but not destroyed. Rylan and Lyra watched them disappear into the darkness of space. Rylan exhaled, exhausted. "Well, that was fun." Lyra gave him a faint smile. "Fun is a human perspective, but it worked. We survived. That is what matters." After the battle, the starward docked at a hidden outpost. Lyra contacted her empire again, this time more cautiously. She sent a message requesting safe passage and political protection. "They will send envoys," she said, "but we must be careful. My rivals are powerful and they will not give up easily. They may strike again, even more aggressively." Ryland frowned. "So, we're not done yet." Lyra shook her head. "No, the real challenge is ahead. We must travel to the capital system where I can reclaim my status, and we must be ready for those who would kill me to prevent that." Ryland leaned back in his chair, thinking. He had accepted a slave as payment weeks ago, expecting little more than a useful companion. Now, he was a key player in interstellar politics, helping a princess survive assassination attempts and reclaim her empire. "Guess humans really do get underestimated," he said quietly. Lyra turned to him, eyes serious. "And humans often surprise the galaxy. That is why I trust you, Ryland Voss. Together we may be able to succeed where others fail." Ryland smiled wryly. "Well, princess, let's make sure they don't see that coming." Over the next few days, Ryland and Lyra worked tirelessly. They repaired the starward, upgraded its weapons and shields, and charted a route through less patrolled sectors. Lyra shared intelligence about her enemies, corrupt officials, rival nobles, and mercenaries willing to kill for the price of a Xanthurian coin. "You'll see," Lyra said one night as they studied a star map. "They think they control everything. But human ingenuity, it is unpredictable. It can change the outcome of battles, even wars." Ryland chuckled. "I'll do my best to live up to that." Just as he said it, the ship's alarm blared again. "Another fleet?" Ryland asked, gripping the console. Lyra nodded. "Not a fleet, scouts. Small, fast ships. They are closing in on our position." Ryland smirked. "Looks like we're going to test that ingenuity sooner than I thought." As the starward prepared to jump to hyperspace, Ryland realized how far their partnership had come. They were no longer simply human and alien. They were a team, human courage and ingenuity paired with alien intelligence and royalty. The galaxy was dangerous, enemies were everywhere, and the odds were against them. But Rylan felt, for the first time in weeks, a spark of hope. Lyra placed her hand briefly on the control panel, guiding him with silent instructions. "We must survive," she said softly, "and we will, together." Rylan nodded, heart pounding. "Together." And as the Starward leapt into hyperspace, leaving Zyphora and danger behind, Rylan realized that accepting Lyra as payment was the best decision of his life. Because sometimes, the smallest choices could lead to the largest adventures. The Starward leapt from hyperspace with a violent jolt, the stars stretching into long streaks and then snapping back to normal. Rylan Voss gripped the controls, feeling the familiar thrill and terror of space travel. Beside him, Lyra's violet eyes scanned the galaxy map, her expression calm but intense. "We're close," she said. "The capital system, but our enemies will know we are here soon. They are fast, resourceful, and ruthless." Rylan exhaled slowly. "Yeah, sounds like a party." Lyra ignored the joke, focusing on the trajectory of the ship. "We must rely on both strategy and improvisation. Human unpredictability is our advantage. I will guide, you execute." Rylan smirked. "Unpredictable, that's my middle name." "Well, not really, but it should be." For days, they navigated the outer rim of the capital system, avoiding patrols, dodging sensors, and relying on Lyra's knowledge of Xanthurian politics. She explained the Empire's factions, the rival nobles, and corrupt officials seeking to seize power. Each revelation made Rylan realize the danger they were in, and the trust she placed in him. The first real challenge came when the Starward approached the main planetary system. 3 Xanthurian warships sent by Lyra's enemies were waiting. They were faster, larger, and heavily armed. Rylan felt a twinge of fear. "We can't outrun them," he muttered. Lyra's lips curved in a faint smile. "Then we will outthink them." Rylan raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Lyra tapped a sequence into the navigation panel. "We will split. You will lead 2 ships on a false approach toward the inner planets. I will take a stealth path through the asteroid fields on the system's edge. We converge at the palace orbit. They will not expect a combined attack from multiple vectors." Rylan grinned. "Now that's a plan I can get behind." As they executed the maneuver, Rylan's skills were pushed to the limit. He darted through asteroid belts, narrowly avoiding collisions while evading enemy fire. Lyra guided him with calm precision, predicting the warship's movements before they happened. A volley of plasma fire streaked past the Starward, sizzling against the hull. Sparks flew. Rylan ducked instinctively, feeling the thrill of danger sharpen his senses. "Now, Lyra," he shouted. Lyra initiated the stealth maneuver. The Starward flickered briefly, activating a Xanthurian cloaking system she had secretly integrated. The enemy ships overshot their position, confused and disoriented. Rylan let out a whoop of triumph. "We're alive." Lyra's hand remained on the controls, steady. "Alive, yes, but not yet victorious. Focus." They entered orbit above the capital world. The planet gleamed with spires of silver and crystal domes. The palace, Lyra's home and rightful seat of power, stood at the center, surrounded by guards loyal to her enemies. Rylan swallowed. "That's impressive." Lyra's expression hardened. "And dangerous. We must land carefully and avoid triggering an attack before we are ready." Together, they devised a plan. Lyra would disguise herself as a visiting dignitary, allowing her to enter the palace without immediate suspicion. Rylan would lead a small strike team to secure the palace gates, using human improvisation to outmaneuver the enemy forces. "This is it," Rylan said quietly. "No turning back." Lyra nodded. "No turning back." The operation began at dawn. Lyra, dressed in ceremonial Xanthurian robes, approached the palace gates with a small contingent of loyal palace guards who did not recognize her as the true princess. Rylan and the Starward circled above, preparing to strike. The enemy forces were confident, unaware that Lyra was alive and that Ryland's unpredictable tactics could turn the battle. Ryland initiated a feint. The starward dipped low, sending out false energy signatures to mimic a larger fleet. The enemy, convinced they were facing overwhelming numbers, diverted reinforcements to defend the outer perimeter. Meanwhile, Lyra slipped past the gates with her disguised contingent. She moved with grace and authority, even under pressure, commanding respect without revealing her true identity. Her presence inspired loyalty among those who had been wary, turning subtle political influence into action. Inside the palace, Ryland coordinated a series of bold strikes. Using small drones, human cunning, and clever maneuvers, he disabled enemy communications and took control of key defensive positions. He moved unpredictably, exploiting gaps in the enemy's coordination. Ryland, the northern tower, Lyra's voice came over the comms. "I'm on it," he shouted. He diverted power to the ship's side thrusters, sending a distraction pod crashing into the tower. The explosion drew attention, allowing Lyra's team to advance unhindered. The palace erupted into controlled chaos. Guards loyal to Lyra's enemies were disoriented, outsmarted by the combination of human tactics and Lyra's knowledge of palace layouts. Ryland felt exhilaration. This was human ingenuity at its finest: resourcefulness, courage, and adaptability against superior numbers and technology. At last, Lyra reached the central throne room. She revealed herself, raising her hand in a commanding gesture. The palace guards and officials froze, stunned. "I am Princess Lyra," she declared. "Your rule by deceit ends today. I reclaim my throne, my empire, and my people." Ryland watched from a secure position above, heart pounding. It worked. Her presence alone shifted the balance of power. A few of the enemy leaders attempted resistance, but they were quickly subdued by loyal forces who recognized Lyra as the true ruler. Her dignity, intelligence, and composure inspired loyalty instantly. Ryland smiled. "Never underestimate a princess, or a human," he muttered. The final confrontation came when the last enemy commander, a notorious mercenary known for ruthlessness, attempted a last-minute assault on Lyra. Ryland acted fast. He piloted the starward through the palace landing zone, using the ship's small weapons and precision maneuvers to intercept the mercenary. The human ingenuity of unexpected tactics once again turned the tide. Lyra, seeing the mercenary defeated, stepped forward to solidify her authority. "You are defeated," she said calmly, "and justice will be served." Ryland landed beside her. "Well, Princess, looks like we did it." Lyra smiled genuinely for the first time. "We did it together, Ryland. Humans are clever, adaptable, and brave. You were vital to this victory." Ryland chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." In the following days, Lyra formally reclaimed her throne. She granted Ryland and his crew honorific titles, wealth, and influence. He was named Ambassador of Human Interests, a bridge between the Xanthurian Empire and human worlds. Ryland walked the palace halls in awe. Gold and silver gleamed everywhere, but he noticed the subtler details: the efficiency of the layout, the clever defenses, and the systems Lyra had used to survive. "Impressive," he said quietly to Lyra. She smiled. "It is my duty, and now it will be our duty together. Humans and Xanthurians can achieve much when we combine strengths." Ryland felt pride swell in his chest. He had accepted a slave weeks ago, expecting little more than help on a ship. Instead, he had become a key player in a galactic struggle, helping a princess reclaim her empire. Weeks later, Ryland stood on the balcony of the palace, looking at the stars. Lyra joined him, her hand brushing lightly against his. "The galaxy is vast," Ryland said, "and dangerous, but somehow it feels like we can handle anything now." Lyra nodded. "Humans are underestimated, yes, but they can surprise even the most powerful. That is why I trust you, Ryland. That is why we succeeded." Ryland smiled. Guess accepting a slave as payment wasn't such a bad idea after all. Lyra laughed softly, the sound light and full of life. It was more than a good idea. It was fate. The two of them stood together, gazing at the galaxy. In that moment, human courage, ingenuity, and morality had changed the fate of an entire empire. Rylan realized that being underestimated could be a weapon, and sometimes the smallest decisions could create the largest adventures. The galaxy was full of dangers, but with allies, trust, and a clever mind, humans could rise to meet any challenge. And for Rylan Voss, the adventure was only just beginning.